Nothing Personal starts in 30 seconds. It's just business. This is Nothing Personal.
Here you go. Here you go. Yeah.
10-year plan. That's the Nothing Personal word of the day. Oh, that's 3 words. 4869. 10. That's the Nothing Personal number of the day. It's Friday, 12/13/24. Friday the 13th. I don't believe in that, Coca. I feel good. I feel lucky. I feel happy because I've got a 10-year plan. I've always had a 10-year plan, a 5-year plan, a 1-year plan. You'd be shocked to know that I've got a 10-minute plan. Seems normal. Of course, I'm referring to the New York Mets and their fantastic press conference announcing Juan Soto's 15-year, $765 million contract. And during the course of the Q&A and during the course, which we're going to go through some really funny stuff that got talked about, the best was that one of the things that Juan Soto really liked about the Mets, I mean really liked, is that when asked, Steve Cohen said to Juan, I'll tell you right now, my plan is to win 2 to 4 World Series in the next 10 years. This is the plan behind the plan, because the original plan was to win a World Series in the first 3 to 5 years of his ownership. This is year 5. Well, it's funny how plans work, because when they don't work, you need a new plan, or you need to add on to an existing good plan, or you just realize you can't plan. But he couldn't resist. Juan Soto's ears percolated hearing 2 to 4 championships in the next 10 years. Yes, that would be a dynasty. Yes, that would be basically 6 to 8 years of being one of 29 losers. And wait a minute, it's a 15-year contract. I guess what Steve Cohen was acknowledging is that the 5 years when Juan Soto will be 37 to 41, it doesn't matter if they win a World Series. You don't need a 15-year plan with a 15-year contract. That would make too much sense. I was sort of shocked by that. Maybe 2 to 4 over 15 sounds worse than 2 to 4 over 10. You know what would sound way better? I'd like to do the press conference over again. How about winning 2 to 4 world championships in the next 5 years during the prime of Juan Soto, and then just ignore the last 10? Maybe the final 10-year plan would be 0, but the first 5-year plan would be 4, which would make 4 and 15, which for a Mets organization, for any organization but the Yankees, would be amazing. It would actually give credibility to the nickname. Is that too subtle for people, Coca? I think people know the amazing Mets, the amazing plan. So they walk in to the press conference. Obviously, Scott Boras is sitting at the table next to Juan Soto. You got David Stearns there. You got Steve Cohen there. It was pointed out to us that Juan Soto had 30 family members and that the Mets were gracious enough to serve Dominican food. That is a chef's kiss of a touch when you're announcing your player to make sure that the spread will make everybody happy. Very important. About as important as a suite on the road. About as dispositive as speaking to your teammates or any players as you go through free agency. Do not be fooled by what you will read and hear today. What a big deal it was that Juan Soto has not spoken to any of his Yankee teammates. since the postseason, that puts the norm in normal. These players, let me ask you to think about it this way. You work, many of you work, I believe according to analytics, about 82% of you work. Now, there's a bunch of students in there, and I appreciate that. When you're on vacation for a week and you shut down, are you calling all your workmates, your cubicle mate, your boss, hey, checking in? How you doing? Hey, Aaron, man, that was a tough loss. I'm sorry you dropped that ball. Don't you wish you could have kept it for $182,000? Did you see, Coca, that they're selling Aaron Judge's dropped ball from the World Series? And that there's a bid, I believe, unless I got my numbers wrong, because it is true the readers were not on, but it looked like it was $182,000 as a bid for the ball that Aaron Judge dropped. Aaron, what's it up to? Oh, it's sold for $43,000? That is not $180,000. Let's do that again. Are we live? 4869. Maybe Aaron Judge wanted to talk to Juan Soto about the ball that sold for $43,000 that he dropped in that fateful fifth inning. Or maybe Juan Soto had no interest in speaking to anyone on the Yankees because after a year, you just move on. After 5 years, very few teammates hang out. We had a bunch of teammates that were actually really good friends. And one of them, his birthday is either today or tomorrow. So I'm going to wish Ricky Nolasco. It's today. Happy birthday, Ricky Nolasco. He and Giancarlo Stanton, AJ Ramos, very, very close. So it can happen. But newsworthy that Soto didn't speak to the Yankees. What did you expect Aaron Judge to do to all the Yankee fans out there? Did you want him to call Juan to convince him to take the 760? Don't worry about the suite on the road or the suite at home. Don't worry about the security. Don't worry about the lack of Dominican food. Give me a break. So they get to the press conference and they're answering questions, and Scott Boras couldn't resist when asked about the Yankees to give one of his beautiful answers when he said, hey, when you're at a wedding, you don't talk about the bridesmaids. Get it? Because the Yankees and the Red Sox and the Blue Jays and the Dodgers were bridesmaids. I was picturing immediately a wedding. I was just at a wedding this past weekend, a beautiful wedding. Congratulations to Adam and Amanda. And I was thinking about the teams walking down the aisle and Juan Soto standing there, not with his bride, but with Scott Boras. And they've locked hands. They're looking at each other's eyes. And the bridesmaids, in the form of teams, are walking down the aisle. And instead of throwing flowers like the cute flower people, they're throwing $100 bills and $1 million and years of contracts. Get to the front, right under the chuppah, and all of a sudden Juan Soto looks at Scott Boras and says, I need a suite? Or he says, Scott, do you see my father-in-law right there, Steve Cohen? I want to make sure that he never gets divorced. That's another nugget that came out of the negotiation. This started with Ohtani. Scott Boras trying to copy Nez. Remember Ohtani's provision last year? Remind me, Coca, because when I say that, I'm just delaying. I believe that Ohtani has an opt-out if Andrew Friedman ever is not the president of baseball operations, and, it's either an and or an or, conjunction, junction, what's your function? Or Mark Walter is not the managing general partner, which, of course, is an absurd provision to have. But it turns out that Juan Soto, this is great. Juan Soto meets Steve Cohen. They're negotiating. He gets $765 over 15. He goes to his $32 million Beverly Hills mansion. I won't give you the address because I don't want it to be burglarized while Steve is at one of his other homes for under 180 days. And he says, Steve, I'm so happy. I love you as the owner, and Alex is taking care of the family so well. I only want to be here if you own the team. Is that in the contract? It's not in the guarantee provision. They added as a clause. There's an opt-out, but the contract is with the partnership that owns the Mets. Steve Cohen owns that partnership. Do you write it as a legal statement that if at any point the partnership decides to sell the Mets, that such player shall opt out, which means that if you want to buy the Mets, you have to talk to Soto and say, are you going to opt out? What if Steve Cohen gets, God forbid, what if he stops enjoying it? What if he realizes that he's writing checks for no reason and the 10-year plan is a 10-year plan filled with futility, filled with losses? Forget championships, it's filled with surus. And it turns out that Juan Soto actually doesn't love him. He actually only wanted the money. And that all the people around Juan Soto are a giant pain in the rice and beans. It's not impossible. But Juan Soto is basically asking Steve Cohen to agree to keep his asset allocation the way it is. Is there a percentage in there? Can he sell 49% of the team, keep 51%, keep control? What if his kids don't want the team? What if for estate planning he needs to sell the team, but no, I got Juan Soto. He can't opt out. I don't even get that. I've never had a player. Now, of course, that opens up the joke. Of course you didn't, David, because no one liked you. As a matter of fact, there was a provision that said, we'll stay on the team if you disappear. That's not true at all. It didn't happen. So Steve Cohen had to give some quotes because that's what you do at a press conference. In addition to the statement about how involved and great Alex is and what a family atmosphere it is to be in the Mets. We are family, so he gave a quote. It's pretty good. He's talking about the contract, $765. When you get to those numbers, you're in a stratosphere. I mean, I only know this from Vegas, but I think it's the stratosphere, but let's not quibble. And so you got to make a judgment call that this is really going to matter to the Mets and be something that's going to drive our goal to win championships. To get a player of his caliber is really unusual. So you got to step a little bit further than you would expect. Notwithstanding the use of got versus have, which may be a sick, it may not be. Steve Cohen has not been in the game very long, and he will soon learn that there will be the next Juan Soto. And the shiny penny that he feels, the shiny billion-dollar penny that he feels, $750 million penny, I had that right the first time, that he feels now about Soto, it's not going to look this way in a year, in 5 years, in 8 years. It just doesn't work that way ever. And no matter how much you try to explain that to an owner, they don't get it. The new owner-itis that we like to talk about on Nothing Personal, when you combine that with the fandom of Steve Cohen, with the wealth of Steve Cohen, with the reckless indifference toward the bottom line Steve Cohen, you get yourself a contract like this, and it always ends badly. So the only question that is in front of us, for Mets fans and for baseball alike, is will Juan Soto be the central player of multiple championships for the Mets? Because the NLCS, you saw what a run looks like last year if you're a Mets fan. You didn't have Soto, didn't need Soto. So we already know getting to the position to win the pennant, not good enough. Winning the pennant, that'd be pretty cool, but not good enough. Winning the World Series, 2 out of 4 times in 10 years. I wonder how many national championships Bill Belichick's going to win. I mean, Coca, this isn't fair, but it's a Friday. I hope everyone's enjoying Friday the 13th. Thank you for waking up and being a part of our week. It's been a week. We're going to do a wait to see. It's horrible. But Coca, it's just too good. It's like low-hanging fruit. Wait to see. Bill Belichick will not win a national championship with UNC. But he was introduced yesterday. Dueling press conferences. Media outlets going crazy, cutting tape. Which way do we go? Who do we lead with? Bill Belichick is a story that won't go away. And we got some details, both because his contract is now public, but also because he spoke. And what we're used to with Bill Belichick is being the Greg Popovich of football coaches. Grumpy, not in the mood to talk to the media, wearing cut-off sweatshirts that I assume his millennial girlfriend has zero interest in him wearing again. He shows up in a jacket and tie, and the UNC, was it the president, Coca? Was it the chancellor? Which is the person who showed up with a cut suit jacket? It was a blazer, I assume, for you Survivor fans. And they cut it to make it look like it was his cut sweatshirt. The amount of Belichick ass-kissing by the AD, Bubba Cunningham, who wore that cut-off sleeveless blazer, to the chancellor, to the boosters. I've never seen a press conference like that. And I've seen some big ones, participated in some really big ones. This one was crazy to me. It is as though God himself had decided to bestow upon the great people of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, his presence, and that his presence alone was going to be the cure to all that has ailed North Carolina and its football program. But then you got into the details of what this contract looks like. He's getting paid $1 million a year in salary. He's then getting $9 million a year in supplemental income that is guaranteed for the first 3 years. The last 2 years of his deal, he'll make $1 million in salary, but that supplemental income is not guaranteed. We haven't yet read the detail of the contract, so if you're coming here for the answer to what will guarantee the last 2 years of supplemental income, you've come to the wrong place. It's as though you had come here to see a clock counting down from 50 that doesn't exist. So we got that little nugget about his contract. And then we got another one. Not only did Bill Belichick negotiate to have money for himself, he also negotiated to have a disproportionate amount of money go to his assistant coaches. And when I say disproportionate, what I'm telling you is that he has a pool of money to hire assistant coaches of $10 million. Funny enough, there's only 2 schools in the entire FBS who have more money at their disposal: Ohio State and Georgia. He has more money than Clemson, for crying out loud, Meatloaf. It's like the boosters opened up this well of money. They turned on the spigot and said, start sucking from the teat of NIL money and booster money. We are going to allocate to you whatever you want, hire whoever you want, bring in, let's do a reunion, bring them all back. You want Patricia, great, you got Lombardi, no problem. Lombardi, by the way, comes from a different pool of income. I can only imagine what Mac Brown is thinking. He's only 1 year older than Bill Belichick. He didn't have anywhere near the pay, the supplemental income, the pool of money. Bill Belichick gets to spend $10 million on assistant coaches. Oh, by the way, $1 million on strength and conditioning? Do you know the number of resumes and LinkedIn matches that are being done by strength and conditioning? I just showed the fact that I'm not on LinkedIn. Is that what it is? Do you match people on LinkedIn? Hey, I'm a strength guy. Although I assume if you haven't worked for Belichick, then you're likely not to get part of that $1 million. I wonder if Alabama's coach is angry that he had a 10-man staff. They only got $9.4 million in Alabama. North Carolina has bought themselves into the conversation, and it turns out all you need is money. Why is it that all the FBS schools aren't going to all of their alums and all of their boosters and all of their anybody associated and saying, listen, Forget Belichick. We can make an offer for anybody. Let's go get Mike McCarthy once he's fired by Jerry Jones. Let's go get Deion Sanders, get him out of Colorado and prove to everyone it was never about Colorado. If money is going to be the currency that's used not just for the head coach, but now it's bleeding down and leaking down to the assistant coaches, to the strength staff, to the support staff, where you're building an infrastructure of a Fortune 500 company to run a football program, when in fact, the recruiting that's required is walking in the room, contrary to what Dan said, Dan Le Batard on the show, which we're leading into him on DraftKings Network and in real life. He'll be live at 9 a.m. as I am live at 8 a.m. on YouTube. It is interesting to me that the view is that he walks into a room and by his very nature of being him, recruits just fall all over themselves. Of course, I'm George Costanza because I have the perfect answer to what he said on yesterday's show, and I sat there in my nothing personal white shirt, and I just said, "You're wrong, Dr. Brewster. I am more of a man as a woman than as a woman as a man I've ever been." I've got the perfect answer. I don't even remember the question because I just got sidetracked by Tootsie. Coca, help me. Help me, Rhonda. Why was I talking about what Dan said? Oh, the buyout. Do you know? That's not what I was talking about. I was talking about walking into a room with recruits. When Derek Jeter bought the Marlins, well, he didn't buy them. When he got Bruce Sherman to buy the Marlins and basically suckered Bruce Sherman by thinking that he could be better than anybody else, he told Bruce Sherman, "I'm going to walk into a room on the Fox lot in California, and I'm going to reverse all the ails and the absolute disintegration of the regional sports networks, and I'm going to get us a huge deal. Then I'm going to get rid of the home run sculpture, and I'm going to fill it with people. Then I'm going to change the Diamond Club. I'm going to fill it with people. Then I'm going to sign players. I'm going to get Avisail Garcia, and we're going to be good." It turns out he walked into a room and no one gave a flying rat's pituitary gland because it's business. No, the show's not over. It's not weekend yet, though I have no idea. And there is nothing. You walk into a room and you're like, "Derek, you're the CEO. You're not the shortstop. I really don't care." Bill Belichick's going to walk in to recruit. Do you think he's going to walk in and the players are going to say, "Oh, I'm coming to UNC"? It doesn't work that way. The players want to get paid. "Don't worry, son. I can get you into the NFL. I've got relationships. I've got a pipeline to organizations, and you're going to make it." No. The odds of you making it are still de minimis. It's going to be interesting to see how it goes. Not that interesting. The question is, how long will he stay? Someone asked that. I give credit to the person who asked it. Are you using us? No, don't be ridiculous. I didn't come here to leave. Do you, David, take Coca as your lawfully wedded producer? Of course I do. For life? Yeah, till tomorrow do we part. How do you know? No one gets married. No one takes a coaching job other than Ozzie Guillen. No one does anything saying, "Oh, I'm here just to take all your money and then bolt." Give me a small break. But there's a clause in his contract that's very, very strange and very unnecessary if you're not here to leave, which he literally said, "I didn't come here to leave. I feel like doing it for a long time." Luckily, he wasn't looking in any general direction. I'm good to go. Except there's a clause in the contract that says that he can terminate the deal after June 1st of 2025. That's 6 months from now. For $1 million. That's insane. If he terminates before June 1st, he has to pay $10 million. I can bet you that if there's an NFL opening like Jerry Jones fires McCarthy and says, "Hey, I know that you want to help your dad out at Chapel Hill and honor his memory, but don't you want to be the coach of the Cowboys and shove it up the Patriots and Robert Kraft's tuchus? Wouldn't that be better? You want to guarantee above the supplemental income of $9 million a year for 5 years? I got you. I'm going to give you a little piece of the Cowboys, and my God, you think your son was set up to coach the Tar Heels? Forget it. I'll set your son up in a way that'll teach you what wealth is, because wealth is equity. Wealth is not salary. There's a little note for all of you people out there. When given a choice, just know that you build wealth with equity. Why would Bill Belichick's representative demand that clause? What was in his head? Protection against some out-of-this-world offer to go back to the NFL that he claimed yesterday disgusts him. Can you walk that back? Of course you can. Will he? I guess we're going to find out. I'll tell you one thing. We won't find out before June 1st, 2025. All right, when we come back, we're going to review a series that I watched and got right through. And then we're going to talk about something going on with the Lions that is interesting in terms of fan behavior. And we'll do it right after the break. Welcome back to Nothing Personal. It's David Samson coming at you live on the Nothing Personal with David Samson YouTube channel. I have a call later today, Coca. We're going to put a sale on davidsamsonpodcast.com. It's 10% off on a Tuesday, but for the holidays, we're going to give you a bit of a bigger discount because Christmas shopping, it costs money, and I get that. And there's great Christmas gifts. There's great merch on the site. You can interact with me on davidsamsonpodcast.com as well. List of movies and shows that I watch. I'm in the middle of watching a bunch of things. We're coming to the conclusion of Shrinking on Christmas. Survivor ends next Wednesday. Bad Sisters coming to an end. Those are the current shows I'm watching. Then I saw Black Doves was out, and it's on Netflix with Keira Knightley and Ben Whishaw. I didn't practice that with you, Coke. I would only assume that's not how to pronounce his name. I can only tell you that he's a talented actor. You know Keira Knightley if you know Pirates of the Caribbean. You know Keira Knightley if you know Love Actually. You know Keira Knightley if you know a talented actress who started as a, I would assume, teenager and is now a full-fledged grown-up woman in a spy thriller, which may seem boring to you, except it's not. This is a story of a woman who is married to the Secretary of Defense in the UK. She is having an amazingly interesting love-filled affair, and then all of a sudden, he dies. The guy she was having an affair with. And the question is, why? How? Who? Turns out that she's a bit of a spy, and her partner, named Sam, has been written a part that is full of humor with blood splattering everywhere, not in a gross horror film movie type of way. It's comedy, and it's drama, and it will encapture you for 6 quick episodes. They're about an hour each, but they go by in a flash. It's like watching 2 movies back to back. Easy. I would encourage you to do it. It's called Black Doves. Now, I know there's a lot of Oscar stuff, obviously, that you want to watch, but this show is worth your time. I want to talk about fan behavior a little bit. The Detroit Lions have revoked the season tickets of a fan who was on the field during a flag presentation. And you can picture before games when they roll out the flag or you've got people celebrating the national anthem and singing, dancing. This fan engaged with Matt LaFleur, who is the coach of the Green Bay Packers. And then the cameras, and this was the Lions-Packers game a couple weeks back, the cameras showed LaFleur losing his temper and yelling. Weren't sure at the time, is he yelling at a player? Is he yelling at a referee? The game had to start. Is he yelling at the opposing team? Is he yelling at a family member? Is he just yelling to pump himself up? Is it a fan? It turns out that he was yelling at a fan. And we didn't really get the full story at the time. And then yesterday, word came out through the fan that the Lions had revoked the season tickets that this fan had. And this was not a fan who was there for just the game. This is a guy who had been going to games for over a decade. This is a guy who went to every game, who it seems as though was defined, his life, by his fandom. He actually acknowledged, shockingly, that he totally understood what he did wrong. I say shockingly because most people don't admit what they did wrong. They would rather do anything than be wrong. And his wrong led to his ability to not feel happiness and joy in a season that you wait your whole life for if you're a Lions season ticket holder. It's not like they revoked the season tickets during an 0-16 season. It's not like Matt Millen called him on the phone and said, hey, we're not letting you wear your brown bag anymore. The Lions, according to our friends at DraftKings, I would assume are either number 1, number 2, or number 3 odds to win the Super Bowl. They are also highly, highly favored to win the conference championship, which would be a step better than they did last year when they lost to the Niners, who you'll hear in a few minutes are not going to be in the conference championship this year. Losing your season tickets this year, I was trying to make a top 5 list in my head. Worst timing to have your season tickets revoked. I thought, of course, of the Mets, who have not had success in a long time. Losing your season tickets right as October's going to begin. That would be bad. I'd put that above being a Lions season ticket holder. The profit margin involved in being a Mets season ticket holder when the team is good is way greater than being a Lions season ticket holder where the games are fewer. I was thinking of another team. The Cubs pre-16 would be my number 1. You've been going to Cub games for 100 years. You've got one foot in the grave. The Cubs are about to win 120 games and are favored to win the World Series. And you say something to Dusty Baker or Craig Counsell or whoever you want to say it to, and they pull your season tickets and say, see you later. That'd be worse. But think about what he did. He thought, and these are his words, this season ticket holder, that it would be sort of a psych-up moment to yell and scream and engage with the head coach of the opponent. Somehow, the Lions did not have enough motivation from Dan Campbell that they needed him, not related to anyone on the team, not a member of the organization, but he was going to be the difference maker in the pep rally that is pregame. That is some kind of ego. I never even thought as president of a team that my words would actually have any impact or meaning in terms of getting players ready to play. It was really more for me. We got this, gentlemen. Let's focus. Let's make smart decisions. Let's be an organization that we can all be proud of. Players are looking at their phones. They're looking in the air. They're thinking to themselves, man, I should have signed a contract that guaranteed that Samson would be the team president. I think that's what was happening. So this guy, this Yutz, thinks that he's going to be the difference maker. And then he had to say that he found out by email. Well, I'm sorry, Yusuf, I really am, because I found out via text message that I was canned, so I totally get it. You expected to be called by someone, maybe the head of sales? Maybe you expect to be called by Dan Campbell? Hey, just to let you know, we're revoking your season tickets. Bye. Click. It's not how it works. No one likes delivering bad news, especially when there could be any sort of legal action. So you put it in writing, and you hit send, and you leave it be. And you hope to God that the person you're sending the letter to is stupid enough to give comments to an article saying, I just want to please tell the Lions, I'm so sorry that I embarrassed this team. Like, this really wasn't my intention. I would apologize to anyone, do anything I could to get back in the stadium supporting my team. But it's a little tear in my eye. I got a little tiny tear. I feel terribly for him. Not. I'm not saying alcohol was involved because I don't know whether it was. I'm just saying I don't quite get the whole thing. Fans are buying tickets. You're a spectator. You want to boo? Boo. This is where I get to with fan behavior and fighting in the stands or throwing things on the field, putting players in jeopardy, yelling inappropriate things. You can yell whatever you want. Don't swear. Don't use racial slurs. The things I've heard said to our players, staggering. Staggering lack of education, lack of self-awareness. We would make sure that we would speak to every person who was getting access to the field. They had to get a pass. We knew who they all were. Oh, and we had security around them. The same type of security that would stop Juan Soto's family from wandering around Yankee Stadium. We would make sure that there was not access to players or to staff that was not controlled by us. Matt LaFleur had the perfect response to all this. He just said, I've never seen anything like this. Talking junk to our players, giving them the throat slash sign. He tried to de-escalate it, he said, and then the guy got in my face. Where was security? At the end of a game, if you ever watch the coaches, if you haven't watched this, just go to the videotape, Warner, and you will see it. When the coaches go to shake hands in the middle of the field and pretend to hug and whisper sweet nothings in each other's ears, good job, good luck the rest of the way, go screw yourself. There are security people around the coaches to make sure that nothing happens. Because God forbid there's a fight after the last whistle on the field that requires mace or pepper spray of any kind. Where was the security pregame? We had the same plan pregame as postgame. Guess they didn't have that. Well, the Lions will not be giving him his season tickets back. I promise you that. Let's go to nothing personal pick of the day because we're ending the week on a win, which makes me happy. I was nervous taking the Rams +3 because on any given Sunday, both the Niners and the Rams would have an opportunity to win a game. And they were both fighting for their playoff lives. And I don't know, Coca, we did not text during the game. I don't know if you were watching the game. If you had an over-under of 17 and took the over, congratulations, you win. The Rams won 12-6. Quickly do the math. 18 divided by 3 is 6. 6 field goals. Nary a moment of joy in the end zone. And the biggest story of the game is that the Rams basically have an opportunity to actually make the playoffs. The Niners, the defending NFC champs, the reigning NFC champs, Coca, they're going to miss the playoffs, though they are only 6-8 and they're behind the Seahawks at 8-5. But so I'm watching the game. I'm all excited about the nothing personal pick of the day. We're going to win. I need to end the season on the biggest bender of all time to not embarrass Dan. And word comes out in the post-game press conference, and this is the second time in 3 weeks, second time in a month, there's a player that refused to play. There's a linebacker on the Niners. His name is De'Vondre Campbell. And he refused to go in the game in the third quarter. He had started 12 of 13 games this season. He's really good, like second on the team in tackles. And he was playing because Greenlaw was hurt, and then he came back, and there wasn't going to be a Wally Pipp situation. If you know, you know. And all of a sudden, De'Vondre Campbell is not playing. And all of a sudden, he said, that's it, I'm walking away. He literally walked away on the sideline. It forced Shanahan after the game and his teammates after the game to have to talk about this. And talk about it they did. George Kittle said, I've never been around someone who quits on their team, and I hope I'm never around a guy like that again. Do you know what that's code for? That's code for our second wait to see of the day. to make up for the fact that we went a day or two this week where I don't think I got to my wait to sees. De'Vondre Campbell will not put on a Niners jersey again. Wait to see. He will be released, jettisoned. I don't quite get the whole thing with players, with executives, with people in the ticket office. I just don't quite understand the concept of quitting. And we had talked about Deontay Johnson, the Ravens player who would not go in the game. This was a couple weeks ago, and the Ravens suspended him for one game. It's twice. Is there a lack of communication between the coach and the player? Is it a surprise to the player? Hi, I'm Odell Beckham. I didn't realize I'd only have one catch for 1 yard. I'd rather you release me, which the Dolphins did mutually. Yeah, right. Maybe Campbell was never spoken to. Maybe he didn't realize that Greenlaw was going to get his job back. Maybe he didn't realize that he wasn't the best on the team. Maybe Johnson with the Ravens was the same thing. Just a level of delusion. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me if you're not getting the playing time that you want. It doesn't matter to me if you didn't get the bonus you want, the salary you want. If you come to work, you work. If you don't want to be a football player on the Niners, then be a man and leave. But during a game in the third quarter, that's like in the middle of a pitch meeting, standing up and saying, you know what? I don't like my commission rate. See you later. Or it's like being in sales and having your teammate do something and saying, I'm not happy for the company. See you later. What does that say about you? Now, you know where I stand with business and with money. If De'Vondre Campbell got a call at halftime, and maybe I should have assumed this, Coca, maybe I'm not being nice. My cynical pills were taken. I may have confused them with the others this morning. Maybe Campbell got a call at halftime and that he got an offer either in the real world, not sports, or from another team that he's going to get paid $765 million over the next 15 years, all guaranteed. And he said, peace. I love OAR. I'm out. He's done. Done. Kyle Shanahan was about as angry as you can be post-game. And you could say that it was about his team losing and their season coming to an end, though he can dismiss that with all the injuries and just the vagaries of an NFL season. He was really irate that a player did that because it doesn't make the coach look good and it angers the players. Let's talk about this weekend. Tomorrow's a big day. Let me give you my Friday pick first. Tonight we have a game. The Lakers are plus 8.5 versus the T-Wolves. And the Lakers are playing without LeBron. And they may be playing without Bronny as well. Bronny was in the G League last night and finally had a coming out party. He scored 30 points. I can't remember what he shot, but even if he shot 10 for 42, he got himself 30 points. LeBron James is on the load management. He doesn't like to hear that. I don't know that you're watching the show, Bronny, or LeBron, but if you are, you're not playing tonight, and ankle management or knee management, whatever. How about just saying 40-year-old management? And that would be perfectly acceptable. This is the type of game that's a sucker bet to take the T-Wolves. The T-Wolves with Anthony Edwards, who made it all the way with that great run with feuding owners to the conference finals last year. I believe they made it to the conference finals. I am having Friday brain. The T-Wolves did last year. They have been struggling this year. I do not think they are 8.5 points better than the Lakers, so we're taking the Lakers in the points. Then we get to Saturday, which is tomorrow. It's the semifinals of the Emirates Cup. How great is that? I want to talk about the Emirates Cup in a minute. I'm going to give you my picks so we can have a condensed, nothing personal pick of the day segment. We are taking the Milwaukee Bucks and the Oklahoma City Thunder in a money line parlay where, according to the odds that are subject to change, you will get plus 116. I believe you will see the Bucks and Thunder win outright. Let's not worry about spreads, and they will go to the Emirates Cup final. Sunday, there's 2 games you can watch, which is amazing that they're both at the same time. And help me out, Coca, in my ear. The Bills are playing the Lions at 4:25 in a game of 2 teams who both have more than 10 wins at Week 15. And the Steelers are also playing at the same time at 4:25. And I'm completely blanking who they're playing. And I know that they're playing the Eagles. Thank you. 2 great games that I want to watch. They're on at the same time. So what do? I choose which one is going to be my pick, and that's the one I'm going to watch. The Bills are getting 2.5 points from the aforementioned Dan Campbell-led Lions with 1 fewer season ticket holder. And keep in mind, when you don't get jacked up by a season ticket holder yelling at the opposing team's coach, you can't win a game. Bills plus 2.5 over the Lions. Book it. So those are my picks. Friday night, Lakers plus 8.5. Saturday, Bucks Thunder Moneyline Parlay. Sunday, Bills plus 2.5 over Lions. Well, on Saturday, I need to win all 3 of those, Coca, to even have a fighting chance of 500. And then I'll be 8 under going into a week where I'll have to go 8-0. All right. Good luck, Dave. So Saturday night, I'm not going to be in Vegas. Trae Young, who may be in Vegas right now, playing craps, not needing a stool. There's some stuff going on with the Emirates Cup that I want you to watch for when you're watching the games tomorrow that, of course, are going to be nationally televised. As part of the new NBA media rights deal, Amazon will be televising the Emirates Cup semis finals next year. Adam Silver, as part of that media package, has also promised to Amazon that we're going to do whatever we can to make it an atmosphere that the Amazon streamers will be super excited to watch. And it turns out that Vegas, who's trying to become a 4-sport town, they already have football and hockey. LeBron wants to buy a team, so does Shaq, and get expansion for the NBA in Vegas. And John Fisher wants to move a baseball team to Vegas. Las Vegas, demographics notwithstanding, 3 shifts notwithstanding, it's super hard to be a 4-sport city. And the Emirates Cup last year was played in Vegas. The players were excited. They were making all this money if they win. And it turns out that from a fan standpoint, it really wasn't the hit that the NBA wanted. The attendance was not what they wanted. So what the NBA did is they changed the schedule. They're not having the semifinals game going against really college football. There's Army-Navy game, or going against the NFL. They're trying to do both games in one day, like the old U.S. Open. 2 men's semis in a day with the women's final sandwiched in between. Greatest day of tennis of the year. They're trying to do whatever they can to buttress attendance, and they're trying to do whatever they can to make the Emirates Cup this amazing property because they sold it as quite a bill of goods to Amazon, and there's a huge value as part of the Amazon package to have the Emirates Cup game. So therefore, word came out yesterday, right as the semifinals are about to be played, that Adam Silver is considering not having the games in Vegas. The players love to go to Vegas. They love to know they're going to get $250,000 or $500,000 and go right to the tables. The players are excited. And what Amazon is saying is, I think maybe we should bring these games back to the home cities. Get home crowds involved. Adam Silver's looking at it closely. So if you like the idea, and I'm talking to all the players on the Bucks and the Hawks and the Thunder and the Rockets, if you like being in Vegas, don't go to your comp list. I want you to go into the casino, and I want you to sell tickets because you've got to sell out T-Mobile Arena with revenue. And you've got to have people show up. When you give tickets away free, they don't show up. You got to sell the tickets. Fill up the arena. Have a great atmosphere. It's the only way you'll get back to Vegas. The NBA Cup is not going to make it in Vegas because that's not going to happen. because players aren't interested in that. So it turns out that don't be surprised when the NBA Cup has moved locations and players may not be all that happy about it, although maybe the money will increase. Remember, $500,000 to the winner of the Emirates Cup. It's not chump change. The players will look around the casino, they'll have tickets in their hands, and they'll say, come on down. It's just business. Thanks for a great week. We'll be back Monday live, 8 a.m. This is nothing personal.